Issue 2, fear of flying. The top aviation inspector for the U.S. government says she won't fly on value jet. Here's why.
Things like maintenance, training of the crew and a lower level of experience, and the fact that they had had 5 incidents, including 2, well, one very serious with injuries and one strange one on a runway mishap. And one that didn't get much report that certainly concerned me is that the day on the East Coast when Dulles and all of the other airports were shut down, one jet took off. That was value jet. All of those together led me to say that I am concerned, and that's why I started asking questions. I don't make the call on whether the airline's safe. The Secretary of Transportation and the FAA does that.
Whenever we have found any issues, value jet has been responsive. They have been cooperative. They have in some cases even exceeded the safety standards that we have at the FAA. And I want to emphasize that I have flown value jet. Value jet is a safe airline, as is our entire aviation system.
And when we say an airline is safe to fly, it is safe to fly. There is no gray area.
Is it safe to fly? Even as investigators continue their grisly search for answers in the Florida Everglades crash site of value jet flight 592, a larger question has emerged. Is the U.S. government doing enough to ensure that these air horrors do not recur? One of the groups asking that question is the federal team that investigates plane crashes, the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB. In 5 of those crashes, 5 that occurred in 1994, the NTSB accused the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, of, quote, falling short, either failing to enforce its own rules or siding with airlines to oppose what many pilots and passengers consider sensible reform. The FAA is part of the Department of Transportation. With 48,000 personnel, it oversees almost all aspects of air travel safety. It inspects airliners. It runs the air traffic control system and trains air traffic controllers. It makes and enforces airline regulations, including those for maintenance, operations, and training. But the FAA has another contradictory role. In addition to regulating the aviation industry, the FAA promotes the aviation industry. Serving these two masters has hurt air safety. That's what the NTSB says, as well as many others. The National Transportation Safety Board chairman, James Hall, has accused the FAA of bowing to industry and political pressure. Question: in 1975, the Atomic Energy Commission was split in 2 and became 1, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, formed to regulate nuclear energy, and 2, what is now the Department of Energy, charged with promoting it. Is it now time to similarly divide the FAA into 1, a promotion entity, and 2, a regulatory one? More time.
Sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, the same thing has sort of been recommended for the CIA, you know, split covert operations and intelligence. And for the life of me, I don't know why you need the FAA to be promoting airlines when you've got the Transportation Department that's supposed to be doing that. Speaking of which, Federico Pena looks like he has mud all over his face for saying that ValueJet was a safe airline when he was in possession of an FAA report indicating that its safety record was deplorable.
And when we have ValueJet sunk in 4 feet of muck with 109 dead people on board.
It's unclear why he felt the need to defend ValueJet to begin with. I mean, granted, it's oversight, you know, the oversight is by a government agency, but there was sort of this knee-jerk, I think, campaign-related reaction that if something went wrong, the Clinton administration had to sort of, you know, react to it. And I think that we have to keep in mind, however, we can split the FAA, we can maybe subsume part of it into Department of Transportation, but it's still the safest way to go.
It's a general love affair with deregulation and entrepreneurship, and I think that the FAA went overboard in that direction. And what this should tell us is that there really is a need for government regulation, and maybe the FAA needs a little more money, and we shouldn't be hammering on government so much.
Is
There's
the
a role for government here.
Is the FAA too cozy with the airline? Do a lot of those FAA people, after they do their stint in public service, then wind up in the airlines rank? And if so, do they want to kind of create a little nest for themselves to land in?
John, I don't have specific answers to those questions. I think that my impression is that the FAA's role in promoting aviation is not that big a part of the agency's charter that really requires splitting off. But I think Eleanor's right in saying this is a good, this tragedy prompts a question. Are the FAA's safety regulations stringent enough? Do they have enough inspectors? Are they getting tough enough? There is indeed, and no one has ever denied it, a genuine role for government here. We ought to get tough on it and take a tough second look.
Exit question. Would you fly value jet today?
I don't plan to, no.
You would not. Would you?
No.
Would you?
No.
Would you?
No.
Quinto, no.